Hi friends, today marks the 1 year anniversary of the publication of my book, Stories from My Mother. And to celebrate that, besides the fact that Amazon has my book at a discount right now, so if you don't have it yet, or if you have a friend who wants it, now is a good time to go get it. But to celebrate this right now, I wanted to share some modifications I have done, really more of like experiments that I've done with my recipes that you don't have to it's not a new recipe, but it's taking like two different recipes that I have, or it's taking an ingredient and just substituting like one or two things and making it into a new recipe that I want to share with you that I've done over the last year that I think are kind of fun. So like as an example, I have a banana muffin recipe. You can just take the bananas out, add applesauce in, and now you have applesauce muffins. Or like one time I did that and then also switched out the cinnamon for pie spice to kind of make more of like a apple pie kind of muffin, which I thought was kind of fun. So I wanted to share some of those with you. So I'm going to go through my cookbook. It's all the same recipes that are in my book and all that, but I just wanted to share some of the ways that I have adapted some things that I thought were kind of fun. Oh, my daughter wrote her name on the bottom of this one, of the bottom of this page. That's kind of fun. So to start out, one was corned beef hash. I have in here the canned corned beef because that's what I grew up with. It's easy, to get from the store, because it's just supposed to be a simple meal to make. But if you wanted to make your own, if you were to take 4 pounds of corned beef and you slow cook it, it makes 4 servings of corned beef. So you can get, out of that, you can get 4 servings of 1.5 cups of ground corned beef, and 1.5 cups is equivalent to the 12 ounce of canned corned beef that you can get at the store. So in case you don't want to buy it, I've only done this, I think, once so far. Mostly because it's kind of hard to find decent corned beef at the store sometimes. But that's something that you can do if you don't want to buy canned corned beef. Also, I have almost all of these on my Twitter account, and I will link to that at the bottom of this video when I'm done. But I know some people are better with auditory things, so I wanted to do this this video as well. Another one is French toast. Instead of making it was the stuffed French toast. Instead of making a big pan of it, I scooped it all into muffin tins. And I think it was I think it made 24. It made 24 little stuffed toast muffins. Yeah, here it is. And I just cooked it for 30 to 45 minutes. I forget exactly now. And you can just have little single servings of stuffed French toast. Let's keep going. I should have booked more of these, but I didn't. A lot of things I've been doing too is I've been subbing garlic powder for minced garlic, because I have been running out of room in my fridge. So it's easier for me to keep like the powder or like granulated garlic in my cupboard instead of something in my fridge, or instead of keeping like individual garlics that will undoubtedly go bad before I can use them. And so most of the time I do about 1 teaspoon for every tablespoon that I would do minced. Sometimes it's a little bit less depending on what I'm making, but that's also another thing to kind of keep in mind, that a lot of the times doing something that is dried for spices is about a like 1-to-3 ratio. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. It's about 1 teaspoon to it's about 1 teaspoon for every tablespoon. So fresh, which is 3 teaspoons, so that's the 1-to-3. But it's so like you do 1 teaspoon of basil for 3 teaspoons, or a tablespoon fresh basil, something like that. Most of the time, not always. You have to like look at each one. But that's another thing you can do. Trying to find something else. Another one that I did was my pecan sticky buns. Instead of doing just the regular cinnamon sugar, I'm looking at my Twitter profile now. I did blueberry instead. So I filled my cinnamon rolls with blueberry filling. So if you go to my pecan sticky bun recipe, and you look at that, and then you go to my fillings section, there's blueberry filling in there. You just take that. I think I did about half of a batch for that, and use blueberry pie filling. And then another time I did that with my cinnamon egg bread, and that was also really good. I have a picture though, also on Twitter. They exploded, which was kind of fun. I mean, it was fine. It didn't like make a huge mess or anything like that, but it was like my bread just rose like so much, and it made it huge. Another substitution I have here is beef stroganoff. Basically the same thing, except for I used 2 pounds of ground beef instead of the 1.5 pounds of sirloin steak, because that can be kind of expensive sometimes to find. So it's not, quite the same thing, but it is a substitution you can do. Also, one of the last times I made this, I didn't have any sour cream, and I have some of these substitutions in the back, but one thing you can do if you don't have sour cream is you can have, this was for a 1/2 cup of sour cream, 3 ounces of cream cheese with 1 tablespoon of milk. And you just mix that all together. You get yourself a substitution for sour cream. So that's a fun one. Stovetop mac and cheese. I've done a lot of different substitutions with that, which has been fun. Just different types of meats, different types of vegetables, just to try it out to see what my kids like. Sometimes they're winners, sometimes they're not. Most of the time my kids just like straight up mac and cheese instead of adjusting it in any sort of way. But that's okay. Cheesy potatoes. This is not really a sub, but I made my own hash browns instead of using frozen ones, which are much easier to use, but there was one day that I just kind of wanted to try it anyway. So what I did was I used about 7 to 8 cups of shredded potatoes, soaked them in cold water for an hour. I wrote here that I kind of forget how long it was, but it was about that long, and then made my own cream soup in the back, which there is a recipe in the back. You can just use canned cream soup, but if you want to make your own, I do have a recipe in the back of the book, so you can make your own cream soup. Because, we don't always want to use all the canned stuff. I got my pierogi recipe in here. You guys might know this, but pierogi day is coming up soon. There's no sub for this. I just really like pierogis, and I'm really excited about making pierogies soon. I really, really love pierogies. Also, if you look on my Twitter, and I will link this in the bottom of my notes here. I made this sweet potato cookie recipe. I think I actually have the recipe over here, and I'll write this in the bottom, but it was 2 cups of pureed sweet potatoes and a 1/2 cup of butter melted, 3/4 cups of brown sugar, 2 eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla, 2 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of quick oats, a teaspoon of baking soda, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of pie spice. I really like my spices. What can I say? A 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and if desired, 1.5 cups of chocolate chips, which who doesn't desire chocolate chips? And then I cooked those in the oven at 350. I don't have a time here. Oh, here we go. 12 to 15 minutes. There we go. And those were really good. I also tried to, so that was just a whole totally new recipe. I also tried to do it with pumpkin puree once, and I didn't adjust the sugar in the recipe, not thinking about the fact that sweet potatoes have a higher sugar content than pumpkin does. And in case you didn't think about it either, sweet potatoes have a higher sugar content than pumpkin does, and they were rather plain and not sweet, and that was very sad. But that's another thing you can do. You just have to adjust the sugar. I think I tried it again, and I had to add, what was it? It might have even been as much as another 1/2 cup of sugar, but maybe it was just another 1/4 cup of sugar, of brown sugar to that. I can't remember now, but when you do that, keep that in mind. If you want to sub it and you're trying to sub other things, make sure you keep in mind the water content and the sugar content when adjusting recipes. So I've done that with other things before, where I've kind of tried to, or other people have done this, where they've tried to lower the sugar content, and you have to be very careful, because not only will it change the sugar content if you want to have something that's lower in sugar, but it will also change the consistency of the thing that you're making. So if you're not careful and you're doing that with breads, it will make them drier, and that can be a problem. Like if you're using, let's just say you take brown sugar out of banana bread or something like that, the result that you get will be not only less sweet, but also drier than if you left that in. This is my blueberry filling recipe right here, what I was talking about before. And I have used this so far in punchki, in cinnamon egg bread, in pies, obviously. I love blueberry pie, by the way. It is one of my favorite pies. I always have a tie between blueberry and pumpkin pie. They're both very good. In cinnamon rolls and in fruit crumble bars. So that's one of the other recipes I have in my book that's very versatile. You can put all sorts of different things in it. I've done lemon filling in those. I've done blueberry filling. I've done just straight up pureed strawberries and pureed pineapple ones, which the kids didn't like. I thought was great. I did it once with my lemon filling. I did it once with caramel, and that was kind of interesting. It seemed to need to be in there longer than the other ones did, and it kind of like crystallized on the sides, and that was really good. So that's another thing. You can use the caramel sauce recipe in the book and the crumble bar recipe, and you can make something new, which is something that I really like. So over here I have the lemon filling over here, and I put those in punchkis, in fruit crumble bars, and cream puffs. I didn't think they were great in the cream puffs. I don't think the cream puffs themselves had enough sugar in them to make up for the tartness in the lemon. I also made a cream filling, a lemon cream filling, and when I did that, and I think it just the balance of the flavor just wasn't enough, so they tasted kind of like they were lacking something, and so that's something to keep in mind. But I did make a cream filling and with my lemon, and it was 1 cup of heavy cream and a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, mixed with, I think it was, I don't even have it written here. I don't think it was the whole, maybe it was the whole lemon filling recipe. I feel silly now that I didn't write this down. But that doesn't seem like quite enough, but it might have been the whole lemon filling recipe with 1 cup of heavy cream. You have to beat it first. You have to beat it to the stiff peaks first with the powdered sugar, and then you fold in the lemon curd once it is cooled. Do not put hot lemon curd into whipped cream. It will dissolve, and it'll be really sad. But that tasted really good. I put those in my punchkis twice actually now, and those were a huge hit last Easter. So highly recommend if you want something new to do with lemon that isn't pie. Not that pie is bad. I love lemon pie. This was my Amish white bread. I'm not sure if I put this on my Twitter post yet. I need to go back through and add all the rest of them, but I'll go in and do that. But I adapted it for sourdough. It was okay. I'll take a picture of this, and I'll put this on there too if I haven't already. I'm still getting used to sourdough. A friend from church gave me some sourdough starter and actually a whole bunch of things to make sourdough bread. And so I was trying to adapt some of the recipes I already had to a sourdough recipe, which is a thing that you can do, but you have to take into account the longer rise times, and you really have to make sure you have a scale for that to make sure that the ratios are all correct. But it was a thing that I did, and it is a thing that you can do. It's interesting if you want to try it. So you can try, if that's a thing you hadn't thought of before, you can go through some of my recipes and you can be like, oh, I want to make this into a sourdough recipe. Experiment with it. In fact, one of the things I actually did do was my pizza dough recipe, and I had to do 1 1/3 cups of water and a 1/2 cup of starter, about 100 grams of starter, and then about 4 cups of bread flour to just kind of adjust it a little bit to make up for the yeast in there. Again, it takes a lot longer to rise. It will have a significantly different flavor, but if you like the sourdough flavor and you want to try that with pizza, you can actually do that with my pizza dough recipe. Everything else was the same. Let's see. Pumpkin bread. I just made pumpkin bread the other day, and that was fun. I actually have a recipe in here for making carrot bread, but I'm still kind of tweaking a little bit, so I'm not quite ready to share it with you guys yet. But that also has been kind of fun. Again, banana muffins recipe, you can adjust that to do it with applesauce instead, which has been kind of fun, especially because one of the things I really do not like doing, which is a thing I put in the back of my book with the quick bites for little mouths, is that very often I have this food that for some reason my children has just decided that they don't want to eat, or we can't finish it in time, or whatever it is, or they just want something very specific, very quick, and I do not like wasting food if I don't have to. And so got applesauce that needs to get used up, let's make muffins out of it. Oh, this was something I did with my crullers. I took the cruller recipe and I baked it instead of frying it, because I know some people, you don't want, my punchki recipe is actually the same way. There's a portion in it that you can bake it instead of frying it. For both of these, frying is just better. It just is. But if you are trying to eat something that is slightly more healthy, that's also a donut, you can bake the crullers at 425 for 5 minutes. You lower it to 350 for 18 minutes, and then you cut the heat, but leave them in there for 10 minutes. That did actually bake them, and they did turn out okay. They really did turn out okay, and you still glaze them all the same way and stuff like that for the crullers. That actually did turn out okay. Frying is still very delicious because you just get that right consistency with the dough, you know, when you fry them. Same with punchkis, you get that that signature like ring around the punchki, assuming that they're big enough. Mine are almost never big enough to do that because I make them very small because I want them to be hand-sized and I want to eat more of them, you know. And but that's another, because usually I make different flavors, and so I want to have like one of each flavor instead of a giant one that's just one flavor. I don't know if you, for those of you that don't know, if you go to most places in like Michigan, Chicago, Pennsylvania, places where there's like a very large Polish community, if you were to get a punchki, in honest to goodness, some places you go, they will be like this big. They're huge, and most of the ones I will see mass produced will be about this big instead of like the really big ones. But the ones that I make are usually closer to about this big. So store-bought ones, Polish bakery ones. I'm kind of curious if I like were to go to Poland, would they be like absolutely massive? That'd be kind of funny. But that's another thing I'm like, oh, bagels. That's a fun thing that I've made. I have been, this in here, you know, I have the dried blueberries. I've also done it with freeze-dried blueberries. That's been fun. I've never tried to doing it with fresh. That might change the moisture content just too much. And that's the thing, you gotta be careful when you're using fresh or frozen berries. They add a higher moisture content than using dried, obviously. But one of the things I've been trying to do is adapt this recipe for cinnamon bagels, because my husband prefers cinnamon bagels. I don't have it perfected quite yet. The actual like dough part's usually fine, but like to get that topping on it, we used to get these cinnamon toast bagels at one point, and that's kind of what I'm trying to replicate here. But in general, what I do, it's the same recipe, but I use, honest to goodness, a 1/4 cup of cinnamon, okay, and a teaspoon of vanilla into the bagel, okay? And it is a lot. Sometimes I need to add just a little bit more water too, because that's so much cinnamon in there and you need just a little extra rise in it. But I do that much. Also, a couple times with my blueberry bagels, I've done a little bit of vanilla and nutmeg and cinnamon with it. I prefer the nutmeg, I think, more than the cinnamon, but I just like adding spices to things. I really like nutmeg and cinnamon. I just think they're very yummy, especially with blueberries. There's nutmeg in my blueberry filling recipe as well. I just think it really enhances the flavor with the blueberries. So I really like those too. I don't think, you know what? I have actually done some things with my pie crust recipe. I made Pop-Tarts with my pie crust once, and I made what do you call them? Is it Life cereal? No, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, that's what it is. I made Cinnamon Toast Crunch once with my my pie crust. So by the way, what I'm looking through right now is actually a separate book. This is my little recipe notebook that I have, and it has a handy little conversion chart on the back. So you can actually get these on Amazon as well. And often when I'm experimenting with recipes, if I'm not writing them like actually in my book, if I'm making like a whole separate thing, I will write them in here. So that's a thing that I've done on occasion. You know, I'm not seeing the other things that I made with this, but that's another thing though. With the pie crust recipe, you can actually do a whole lot other than just pie with it. You can make cookies out of it, like those krzyziki or something like that out of it. Or no, not krzyziki. You can make what do you call them? The thumbprint cookies. You can make both kolache and whatever the thumbprint cookies are called, and I'm totally blanking on it right now, and I can't find my other recipe in here, but that's okay. You can make Pop-Tarts. You use the pie crust and you make Pop-Tarts out of it. which I think personally is really fantastic. Pot pies have gotten so expensive lately, and they do not taste like they used to when we were kids. Have you noticed that? They taste like cardboard now, and they're smaller. They're like, I don't know, they've lost like 30% of the size that they used to be over the last, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. Or 15 years. I think, let's see, do I have any other? I did yogurt cookies before. This was a sub for my chocolate chip cookies. Instead of eggs, I used a half cup of yogurt. And if it was flavored yogurt, I removed a 1/4 cup of the white sugar because that usually has a higher sugar content. Added some extra vanilla and a cup of quick oats. And then I did either chocolate chips or craisins. And that was pretty good. One time I did it with lemon Greek yogurt and I added craisins and they kind of tasted like little scones. So that's something that you can do as well. Let's see, I tried to actually do, I think they're called Levain cookies or something like that, where you take the sourdough and add that to the chocolate chip cookies. I was really impatient and it took a really long time. So I probably won't be doing that again because I don't have that kind of patience for cookies. But that is a thing you can do as well. You can adjust cookies for that. Oh, here's one, brownies. You can use my brownie recipe to make brownie cookies. I don't know if you like brownie cookies, but it's basically like if you really, really like a fudgy chocolate cookie, or if you like the corner pieces on brownies, brownie cookies are for you. And so you can take my brownie recipe, chill it for a little bit, which I know is really hard, but you really should, or the cookies will spread a ton really fast. But you just chill that for, I don't know, 30 minutes or something like that, and then scoop them out like you would with cookies and bake them. I think it was at 375 is what I did it at. So that was really good. Here's the fruit crumble bars again. So you can just take that, and I'm serious, I have done so many different purees: strawberry, blueberry, apple, pineapple. I think I did cherry once, raspberry, the caramel. You can just use the caramel sauce in the book and do that. So that, like, seriously, there's so many different things you can do with that. It's meant to be a fruit puree, or you can just do like a fruit filling or something like that if you want it to be a higher sugar content. But seriously, you can just do I literally did pineapple once. I ground up a bunch of pineapple. I don't know why I had all this pineapple in my freezer, but I did. And, I bet you I was probably making Chinese food or something. And, to make the sweet and sour sauce. And honest to goodness, like, it's so good. It really is. Rice pudding. I love rice pudding. Rice Krispies. Here we go. Rice Krispies. You can take these and make scotcheroos. And so you sub 1 cup of the butter for a nut butter, and also add a teaspoon of vanilla. And so you mix it all up together like you'd make the Rice Krispies. You flatten it all into a tray, and then you add the chocolate chips, let them melt for a little bit, and then smooth them out. Okay, so those, I don't know if you've ever had scotcheroos before. They're a big thing in the Midwest. They're very yummy. I haven't had them in forever because my son is allergic to peanuts. And so there's a whole bunch of things that I've been slowly trying to adapt to using other types of nut butters that he can have. So one time I tried that recipe with almond butter, because I tried to buy some almond butter for them to taste and my kids hated it. But once mixed in with marshmallows, it's a delicious treat. And then recently I've been trying to make my own cashew butter, and that has gone over better. I actually adapted the peanut butter cup recipe that I have in the back of the book to use cashew butter as well. So that's something you could do. You can use different types of nut butters if you have allergies in your family, which is very sad, but it is there's hope. There's things you can do. Oh, mug cookie. My mug cookie recipe. These are obviously meant, both the mug brownie and the mug cookie, they are meant to be made in the microwave, because that's easy. You end up being over and done with making cookies, or just a little single serving cookie, while your kids are sleeping, I don't know, it's like 3 minutes or something like that. I take the stuff out, mix it all together, I put it in the microwave. While that's in the microwave, I put all my stuff up again, and I have a cookie. It's great. But there's been a couple times where I just want that, a little bit more of like a crispiness to the outside of my mug cookie, and so I have stuck it in my toaster oven in a glass baking dish, and that's a thing you can do as well. It does take significantly longer, which kind of defeats the point of it being a really quick mug cookie. But it does taste good. And so there's been a couple of occasions where I have done that. So that's something that's kind of fun. There's a caramel topping. Again, you can use that in a couple different recipes, which is very good. I've actually been wanting to put it into my cookies to make like a cookie bar and then like swirl the caramel sauce into it. So I thought that would be kind of fun as well. A couple other things that I have, it's not really a sub, this is just a thing I make, but it's a thing I put on my pizza crust. You mix 1 tablespoon of salt with a teaspoon of garlic powder. And hold on one second. Yes.
What did me?
You want what?
What did me?
Nope, you can't come on the screen.
What did me?
Okay, I'll do that in a second, okay? Can you go close the door, please?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Close the door. Thank you. Okay, that was my son. What was I saying? Oh, garlic salt. 1 tablespoon of salt with a teaspoon of garlic powder. You mix it all together. I like to put it on the crust of my pizza, which I think is really good. Here's another thing I've made. This is a fry seasoning, but I put it on literally everything, like potatoes, meat, veggies, hard-boiled eggs. I just really love this seasoning. I put it on my hummus too. I really like it. So it's 3 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of dried basil, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of sugar, and a half teaspoon of pepper. And you just mix it all up. If you've got these little, I have these little seasoning, like shaker things or whatever that you can get, and you can just put it on anything to your heart's desire. It's fantastic. So that's a thing you can do as well that I really like. Let's see, what else did I have? Oh, better than broth. I love that. A thing that I've done with my pizza dough is I made them into little pizza buns. So I took the pizza, I cut it into little pieces, I rolled it out, and I just stuffed it with a little bit of cheese and sauce and pepperoni, tied it a little up like a little dumpling, and then I cooked it in my cast iron in the oven. Same recipe for everything else, but that's a fun thing you can do with the pizza dough recipe. My mom does a thing where she does like these pizza like logs kind of. That's another thing you can do. I adapted my banana muffin recipe, and I did this is my blueberry muffin recipe with strawberries instead of blueberries. I also reduced the sugar by half apparently because I made them for my kids. Again, I don't really recommend it because it will drastically change the texture of it, but that's a thing you can do. And they actually turned out okay. The moisture kind of helped with those ones. Another thing that I have done with my scones, which I'm actually going to make once I'm done with this because I really want some scones, is I don't know if you can hear my toddler is very angry right now that I'm in here. So I'm going to be wrapping this up very soon. But a thing you can do is you can take the scones, and instead of I've made them on a tray just like you normally would make scones. Another thing you can do is you can put them in muffin tins, or I just took a giant cookie scoop and I scooped them onto a tray and made them that way. It's just different ways that are easy cleanup, basically, for making scones. Let's see what else we got. There's my pretty crullers. Again, I will link this at the end. You guys can look at it. I might be getting to the end of all my different substitutions, which is good because my children are starting to freak out. There's my pizza dough sourdough. And so yeah, that might be it. So I'm gonna have to add some of these things too. If you, though, want to come up with your own little creations, this is something you can do. If you were following along with me, you can get your book, and you can go back. I should have mentioned at the beginning, but you can get your book, and you can go through, and you can write these things in as I was reading them through the book, and you can modify them yourself, and you make your own little experiments. And also, I'd like to know, have you tried experimenting anything, try to mix and match any recipes to make something new that I didn't have in the book that your family just likes better? I'd like to know that too, and I'm sure everyone else would. So feel free to comment your guys' own little experiments with my book. And if you want, get this little book. There is room in the back of this book to write recipes, obviously, but I also just like having other books for things so I can keep experimenting with stuff. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Thanks for celebrating with me. I know that this is a really long video, but I'm just excited to share all of these experiments with you guys and the memories that I've made with my kids. It's been a lot of fun. There's been some stuff that hasn't worked out, but along the way I have found some stuff that makes some really delicious food, all without having to get a new book. I mostly just keep using the ones that are in here, so that's kind of fun. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I hope you all have a great day. Bye.